It's time for a Mountain West update with the Big Mountain.
There's a lot going on in the Mountain West, so we're back on the Big Mountain to keep you updated.
Welcome back to the Big Mountain. I am JY. This is my good friend Steve. It's time for a Mountain West update. We want to talk mediation, give you some of our opinions on what may be going on. Want to talk about a media deal that may be coming in a few weeks. And also let everyone know that we're going to be going to the Mountain West Media Days here next week. But let's start with mediation. So a stay on the legal proceedings is in effect until July 15th, which is only 1 week from today. And today marks the 50th day that these two sides have been in mediation. That began back on May 19th. Almost every attorney will tell you that this is an extreme amount of time for a mediation process. They typically do not last anywhere near this long. Steve, I have some opinions on this. I've given them out in various areas. I want to hear from you, kind of your thoughts on both the length of time here, at least 50 days and counting, and also, you know, why you think that we're at where we're at here with no real news coming out of anywhere.
So personally, I look at it, you really can look at it any way you want because There's no news. So you could just go where you want in your own head. But I look at it as positive in two ways. One, they're still in mediation. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if things had broken down, obviously we would know about it. So things are still going on. You know, we saw Commissioner Navarez's comment before where she wanted a global solution. She wanted to get everything sewn up. So to me, you know, that probably plays a big part in the length of it, and they're still talking. So I think that's a good thing. As far as the fact that we have, you know, basically no leaks, you know, nothing to go on. I think that's positive as well, because a lot of times when there's leaks, it's because one side or the other is trying to affect the narrative. They're trying to get some leverage. They don't like something, whatever. So they strategically leak something to kind of push things their way, and nobody is leaking. So to me, I just take that, maybe I'm just more positive on this stuff, but that it's good because they're working forward. They haven't felt the need to leak anything, and they're still working together on a solution.
Well, and I also agree. It's definitely good we're still in mediation. I mean, again, we'd all like answers, but the fact that we're not moving forward with a lawsuit means that at least they're still close enough to some sort of a hopeful solution that they're remaining at the proverbial table. They're not literally sitting at a table for 50 straight days. I think we're all aware of that. And remember here, I mean, we've got two different lawsuits at play. You talked about that global resolution. Yeah. Two different lawsuits at play. We have 5 different parties at play, 3 of which are public entities. So the 3 schools that are involved here are public entities. There's things they have to go through in order to get lawsuits approved, reviewed, and all of that. So that will absolutely take a bit more time, potentially. Again, not the 50 days, but you know that will take a little bit more time. And I think this slowness, or this 50 days plus, speaks to the fact that this settlement is not just about dollars. And I've said this before, if this was just about dollars, they would have known that they're close enough and we probably would have had a settlement by now. Or, hey, we are nowhere close to being on the same page. We've got to move forward with litigation and the lawsuit. And we haven't gotten there yet. So to me, this means there's more going to be in this settlement than purely a figure, a dollar amount for the exit and poaching fees. There's been a lot of talk recently about a 9th member for football. And I really think that there could be some sort of a scheduling situation trying to be worked out here between these parties. You know, whether that's to help the pack because they don't have a 9th. Even if they get a 9th, I still think there could be a scheduling type of situation. And I get that there's pros and cons. Some fans want absolutely nothing to do with each other. They're like, you go your way, we'll go our way. Good luck with that. Other people, they can see the kind of the pros of potentially having a scheduling year. And I'm talking 1 or 2 games. You know, I'm not talking some like half a season type of deal. I'm talking 1 or 2 games where they combine schedules. And, you know, a pro here, and I'm going to throw some out and you can, you know, add to it or tell me why I may be wrong, is that it helps these Western schools. And all of these schools are Western schools with filling their schedules. It's more difficult to get teams to travel from the East or the Central to the West to play you. And of course, here with the Pac, they're looking for potentially another out-of-conference game. And they're going to want some of these teams to come and visit them in Pullman, in Boise, in X, Y, and Z. And it's much more difficult to get those opponents to do that. We've also seen some of these traditional rivalries where some of these schools have already said, hey, we're going to do our best to maintain the border war between Wyoming and Colorado State. We're going to try to maintain the San Jose State, Fresno State games as much as we possibly can. So there's still these natural rivalries, this regionality here that could be a part of with that scheduling agreement that they're going to want to do anyway. I get a lot of people say, well, let them do it outside of it if they want to, but I think that could help be a bit of a win-win. Also, let's talk about some cons here. I think one of the cons is, as I said, they just don't want to interact with each other. Like, hey, we're divorced and maybe we'll talk again in 5 years, but for now, I'm going this way and you're going that way. I think that's a little bit of an ignorant way to look at this. We're talking about a business here. Yeah. The commissioners are trying to run a business. The presidents are trying to run a business. I get that from the fans' side of things. I'm not sure if in reality that's really at play here between the parties when push comes to shove. Another con is the Pac is trying desperately to separate themselves from the Mountain West, right? So, okay, if we're going to do an agreement, that's putting us closer together again. These, certainly the Mountain West 5 that have left the Mountain West, want to try and separate from the Mountain West in just optics. Mm-hmm. It's an optics thing, if not more, but at the very least an optics thing. And a scheduling agreement certainly doesn't portray those optics. So, just throw out some goods and bads to that, Steve. What do you think about possibly a scheduling agreement with these two?
Well, I think, first of all, I think it would be kind of incredibly ironic if what started out as a scheduling agreement between the Mountain West and the Pac blew up into all these lawsuits, and then the resolution to that was going to be a further scheduling agreement. But I do think it makes sense for a lot of the reasons you point out. I think both of these conferences may have some trouble, especially over the next couple of years, scheduling, because the Mountain West was planning on having all of these conference games with all these members who are now leaving. The Pac, they're basically creating a new conference. Whatever you want to call it, they're almost restarting, and a lot of schools around the country have their schedules locked up.
Yes,
for the next few years. So I could see something, especially like a 2-year. Okay, over the next 2 years after these teams leave, all the requirement will be you have to play. And it might just be the teams that leave. Say all the teams that leave that go from the Mountain West to the Pac have to play 2 games, a home and home, against a new Mountain West team or current Mountain West team.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that as part of it, or something. Maybe the Pac wanting, who knows. But I think there could be mostly good to that if they were able to do that. I'd hate to see a big settlement be held up, because we're talking about lots of money over something like that, because I think you could do that outside of it. But if they want it done in there and they can get it done and everything's going good and the talks are going good, then fine, by all means do it. The cons, I don't really see the cons from the perspective of leadership of the universities, from the president's athletic directors. I think, like what you said, those cons are more a fan perspective, especially if this would be a short-term scheduling agreement, just to get them by over the next couple years. Then they can start looking at their schedules for 28, 29, 30, whatever. But if we're talking like 26 and 27, short-term scheduling agreement, I don't think there's really any cons from a decision-maker perspective. And yes, like you said, the Pac was trying to distance themselves, but I think they've seen that it wasn't as easy as they thought it was going to be.
Sure.
And at least for now, it would make sense for a short period of time to still play those teams, and then let if you make it mandatory for 2 years and everyone sees, okay, this can work out, it's not a big a deal, let the wounds heal, and then you can continue with those natural rivalries, the border war and those kind of things, without making it mandatory. So I don't really see any cons for myself.
Yeah, I think Mountain West fans would scream at me and say, want to be very cautious, or even really appalled at the idea because of the recent history, the lawsuits about the scheduling agreement. Back to your original point, we started with that, and maybe we're going to finish with that. Mountain West fans would say, "Why in the world would we ever want to do something like that again?" And so I totally understand where they're coming from there, and I also get that, especially for 26, a lot of schools have at least 3, if not all 4, out of conference games already figured out. So this would be the extra game for the pack that would typically be, again, if they only have 8 members, it'd be easier for them in needing to fill that. The Mountain West schools, maybe not quite as easy. So potentially having to either change or just not be a part of that agreement, at least in 26, because they already have that scheduling figured out. The other piece I think absolutely could be a part of this, Steve, is GCU. So we've talked about Grand Canyon a lot. We talked about them not really having a home here in 25, 26. I firmly believe at least some of their sports are going to be in the Mountain West. I'm not sure the departing members are really interested. I mean, especially when you look at basketball, they're already at a 20-game conference schedule. Lord knows if you made that 22, or they'd have to, kind of do some finagling to make that work. Or maybe you just make them guaranteed out of conference games. Again, that's stuff they really have to figure out. Could be a part of that settlement, and we'll have to wait and see.
So what you're saying, because I was confused at first when you first started saying this, what you're saying is you think maybe the departing members right now are holding up the acceptance of Grand Canyon, and you think as part of this mediation is to go ahead and accept them, get them in, get them to stop holding it up,
right?
So we don't have to wait until they officially leave,
right?
We can get it done now.
Yes, and technically they've officially left. They're in the interim period. They don't have voting rights. But if you can make this work out through
make it clean,
other areas within the settlement, clearly it makes it more sense. And maybe the Mountain West can use this as some sort of a leverage, or the PAC can use this as some sort of leverage to make that part of the agreement. I think the Mountain West could go forward with it, but it makes me, especially since we've had that announcement now 2 weeks ago from those. I thought the announcement was going to mean we were going to hear about GCU. We haven't. I think it is absolutely most likely being held up by the mediation, because it is a part of this as well. Again, global.
Yes, Gloria wants it all zipped up.
They're putting it all in there. So I know GCU's put out some of their schedules here for the fall. I know men's soccer just came out. They actually have a WAC schedule there. So I'm really focused mostly on basketball with GCU. So we'll see if that's a part of it as well. And I think, July 15th's coming up. I really think and hope that is going to be the end date. Of course, they've already extended this once. They've had plenty of time here. It's the middle of July. We've seen what the PAC has already done, and at least adding a member, doing some with their media rights. We're going to get to the Mountain West media rights. I would be surprised if we don't get either a settlement or just, hey, it's not going to work out. We're going to a lawsuit by this July 15th deadline. So we all know they like to go to the very end.
Yes.
Keep your eyes out for next week, Monday and Tuesday. I'm hopeful we get some answers.
And there's something pretty big going on then, and we'll be there.
That's right. Next week is the media days. So let's get to the media deal first. And I mean, it could be a heck of a week that week, potentially, for the Mountain West. So last week, Commissioner Navarez here said that the Mountain West media deal could be finalized, quote, within weeks. She didn't put an exact timeline on that, but she did say they're working on a lot more of the detailed types of pieces and portions of these agreements that you get into near or at the end of a deal. So that is where they're at. A friend of our channel here, Casey Smurthwaite, he had an article on Sunday that stated how important, this Western football inventory is, this content is, especially for the late night Hawaii window. And there's been a lot coming up yet again about this late night window. KC believes that the deal is going to improve slightly as the content that's needed here is still king. And really, we haven't seen a decrease in a deal in the last 20 years, even with Conference USA, who's had a lot of iterations of membership. So he's fairly confident that we're going to have at least a slight improvement in terms of dollars per member. Go ahead.
Well, just to chime in real quick with the Hawaii, I keep seeing in your conversations on Twitter, people say, well, Hawaii, they don't even have a stadium. That does not matter to this. The fact that they don't have a stadium and their stadium is a crap hole until they get the new one built does not matter. It's all about the time slots, that late window, the late betting window. I mean, all of those things. So if you think that it matters, that Hawaii doesn't have a stadium, just wipe that out of your mind. That's not going to decrease the value of the Hawaii deal.
Right, exactly. And now it's for all sports with the Mountain West. And there was a recent article here with comments from the new Hawaii AD, Elliott. He talked about the value that the University of Hawaii here brings to the Mountain West and the new media partner. He said that Hawaii is going to lean in completely into this Mountain West deal, into the media partners to monetize these assets for both the conference and themselves. Because, in his quote, he says, it's better for the conference, which benefits all of us. So I put on Twitter today, or X today, that rising tide raises all boats type of mentality. That's absolutely what we're hearing from the new AD down there at Hawaii. I really appreciated his comments. Again, wouldn't surprise me here, Steve, if potentially announcement comes out when we're at Mountain West Media Days. Nice little time to get in the news, which of course is next week. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but that timing would be pretty interesting.
I want to bring you back the new Hawaii AD.
Yes,
we talked about that at length. You did some episodes without me on it. We had discussion. And there was a time period there. I know you were concerned. Yep. A lot of Hawaii fans, Mountain West fans, what the shenanigans were with getting rid of the old AD. Mm-hmm. But what did I say at the time? Look, the new president's going to want to bring in his new AD, and when that new AD is in place and he starts doing things and moving to the future, it's going to be like no problem whatsoever. And we already see the new AD. He's planting his mark. He's making headlines and he's advocating for Hawaii and the Mountain West.
Yes,
and it looks like to me he's already on a good glide path.
No doubt about it. So let's talk lastly here. Media Days is next week. Steve and I will be at Mountain West Media Days in Vegas. Expect a lot of content from us. We'll probably go live with some items. Might be live on X. Might be live here on YouTube. We're hopefully going to be pumping a lot of interviews with head coaches, with players. We expect to hopefully have a discussion with Commissioner Navarez as well. I expect us to be very busy, but it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun, Steve. Really looking forward to it.
Really looking forward to it, yep.
So those media days are on Wednesday and Thursday. If you didn't already know that, we will be attending or getting there on a Tuesday. We may just go live on Tuesday just to say hello to everybody from hot, sunny Las Vegas. We're also going to be taking a tour for all of our UNLV fans of the facilities at UNLV, another fantastic facilities that we get to see. So again, a lot of stuff going on here on the Big Mountain next week. Make sure you check us out. With that, hey, make sure you like this episode and subscribe if you like our content. If you're a Mountain West fan, you've got to be a dweller on the Big Mountain, and we'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.
We've got Vegas in July.